Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Think Great Experience. I'm glad you're joining us today because we've got another amazing episode for you. I am very fortunate to have somebody that I had the opportunity to meet a little while ago. So much energy, so much passion. Chris Mitchell is the VP of Norcom Mortgage. He is also involved with the Veterans Ranch, which we're going to come back to that. He is a self-proclaimed amateur actor and has some political aspirations. And that's just to name a few of the great things he's done. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me.
I'm super fascinated by your energy, your focus, your drive. And for those that don't know about Norcom Mortgage, can you tell us a little bit about where you work and what your role is there?
Sure. So we are a privately held independent mortgage company. We are direct seller and servicer for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, veterans mortgages, all sorts of stuff like that. What that means is that when we write a mortgage, we generally will keep it on our books, and we'll be the one that you deal with for the life of the loan. Most of the time. So why that's helpful is that you actually have a personal connection to your bank, to the person who takes care of your house, and we pride ourselves on that. You can call our servicing department, and they'll answer usually on the first ring and help you personally.
I got to think that people love that.
Yeah, most people love that. Yeah,
because we're all familiar with getting a loan and then it's sold off the next month and whoop, it's with somebody else.
Yeah, I mean that rarely happens with us. Sometimes it does, depending on exactly what it is. But if you tell us you don't want that to happen, we can certainly make sure that we keep it on our books. No problem.
Great. And you've been with them. I'm sorry. How long have you been with them?
I've been with them for almost 2 years, and prior to that, I was with a much larger other mortgage company. And prior to that, I spent the majority of my career in the real estate business. So I've been a real estate broker representing sellers and buyers for much longer than I've been in the banking side of the business. But I understand both the disciplines, and I maintain both licenses just so that I'm always familiar with what's going on.
Well, your industry right now is facing some challenging times, I would say.
Yeah, you could say that. I believe this year mortgage volume is down 67% versus last year, and last year wasn't very good either. So we've had a couple of rough years. The spike in interest rates that we've seen, that is not just a U.S. phenomenon, but really is impacting our business here, has been devastating. We've seen quite a few bank failures. We've seen a good number of mortgage companies completely go out of business or exit entirely. We've seen the biggest operator in the country. I won't name them, but they're a big bank with a covered wagon, and they've let go something like 8,000 people so far this year. We're not doing that. We're actually growing. Our business is up. We focus on working with home buyers rather than with people looking to refinance. Though we still do that, and we still do all kinds of things to help, for instance, to help seniors stay in their homes, who may benefit from a reverse mortgage for people 55 or over. We offer all kinds of things like that.
That's fantastic.
But because we take that approach, that we are a consultative, we're an educator rather than a seller. That's how we maintain our business and grow it. That's how I train the people that work for me to approach the business. And because of that, we're still seeing that we're having an okay year despite all the carnage in the industry.
Well, I'm sure the messaging to your people has got to be so important right now, because they're, anybody in that industry, anybody that's heard of that industry, all you have to do is turn on the TV, read the newspaper, check out anything online, and they can hear the doom and gloom. But here you are, you guys are growing. So what type of messaging do you send out to people? Let's say your internal people, your own team members, when there's this much of a turn in the market? Like, how do you help keep people positive?
So the way that I look at it is that, there is still business happening in a bad market. There's still people buying and selling homes every single day. We're fortunate to live in South Florida. That's where my team is based. The state of Florida, we're actually averaging 804 new residents per day coming in from elsewhere in the United States alone. That doesn't even include the folks coming in from other countries. So just on domestic, we're gaining 804 people per day. So we have a strong housing market here. Yes, it's a little bit down from where it was a couple of years ago. It's still very, very strong. And actually, we're seeing in places like Palm Beach County, where I'm located, that the percent of homes that were bought with a mortgage has, for the first time ever, or at least in recent years, uh, topped the number bought with cash. So
Wow.
that's pretty amazing. So despite the fact that, yeah, okay, there is some doom and gloom out there. Yeah, there's still plenty of business to be had, right?
Yep.
And the people who are going to get it are the ones who show up for work every day and know about different products and different things that we can do to provide solutions to our customers, right? That's where we are.
Absolutely.
It's just simply a matter of, you pivot, right? When something
Yep.
goes wrong, you
That's
find
right.
you find where there's right and you go there.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I have the opportunity to go all over the country and speak with people in different industries. But anytime there's a shift in the market, there's always a lot of woe is me. And then you have a few people, these what I call them business warriors, and they realize that there's more work out there. They just have to work a little harder for it. You got to go find it.
Yeah, you got to go find it, and you got to find some innovation and some things that are a little bit outside of the box, to use a very to use a cliche. It's what works sometimes, right? It simply is a matter of, look, we're not going to have a year industry wide like we did in 2020 for quite a while, and
Right.
that's okay. That's okay. That doesn't mean that, look, it was easy money back then. I will admit it. It was easy money. You put out your flag, and business just flooded into you for just for being open. It's not going to work that way now, and that's a good thing for those of us who are willing to actually put in the time, put in the work, and chase the business down. We're going to do okay, and we're going to do well, and we're going to build good relationships with not only with our end clients, but also with our trade partners, those people in the real estate business, title attorneys, all of that. This is a great opportunity for us to really get to know each other and figure out how to work together while we're not, experiencing a crazy rapid pace.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel that in any industry, when there's a shift in the marketplace, I feel that it opens up so many new opportunities if people are just willing to stick it out. But then I find that marketplaces like this in any industry tend to thin out the herd. People quit.
Yeah.
As soon as the going gets tough, they get going. And so for those that stay in the industry, I heard you say opportunity already a number of times. So who knows? After this episode airs, you may have some people moving out to Florida. You never know. I'm in Minnesota. I'm in
Come on
Minnesota.
down.
We've lost plenty to Florida, so they're going down there in droves. So you guys are doing something right.
We
Well,
love people from Minnesota. You're all friendly and nice. I mean, you come down here and you act like this is something special. We're spoiled. We don't even realize.
so you are not immune to facing challenges. You've had challenges in your life before, and one of the most significant obstacles that you've overcome, one of the levels of greatness that you've achieved in your life is reaching a state of sobriety, which you just celebrated an anniversary on that.
Yes.
You know, that may be one of the toughest challenges people face. Can you take us on that journey a little bit and how you achieved a level of greatness that you're living right now?
Yeah. So something that I'm very happy to talk about. Those of us who have suffered with addiction and recovered from it. It's our great responsibility to share the story and talk about it and help the next person who's out there who's still sick and suffering. And by the grace of God, that I'm one of those people. What happened to me is that I ended up finding myself literally at the bottom of a bottle in 2019. Everything in my life was kind of going wrong. I was drinking every day to excess, to the point where it was really it was a problem. I was facing potentially looking at going to do some jail time if I didn't mend my ways, and I ended up here in Florida. I ended up here in Palm Beach County, where there is a significant community of people involved in recovery, both in the professional way and also in the non-professional way. So I started the journey going to treatment. I spent about 30 days in a residential treatment, and then came out of that. And I realized while I was there that was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I met a lot of people there who were in treatment there for, it wasn't their first go around. It was maybe their second, third, fourth, 10th trip through a treatment center. And that was that was the scariest thing that I ever encountered. I've had the fortune to live all over the world and do some different things, and I've been I've been I've been in some places that are not exactly safe, and that though was being in a treatment center in Florida and meeting people who had been through it 10 times and still were struggling. That was the scariest thing that I ever experienced.
Mhm.
And I made the decision right then and there that was could be my only time through it, and that I was going to do whatever I had to do um, to get better.
Did
And
you have? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, no, what it came down to was, there were plenty of people there who had been through it and were happy to share their story and tell me exactly what they did and exactly what I had to
Mhm.
do. So that's all I did is I listened to what other people told me to do. I took direction, and everything from there went in the right direction.
And you just celebrated how many years?
4 years.
4 years
Yeah.
now. Now, that first of all, that takes a lot of, I hate overusing this word too, but courage just to share that and get that out there, especially saying, "Hey, I almost had some jail time because of this." Um, what were the things that you focused on? Like when life was at its toughest and you were in those moments, were there things that you focused on? Obviously, there were people in there, and you said, "Well, I don't want to go down that pathway." But were there other things that were filling your head, with positive thoughts about anything for the future or people that you focused on? Like, what were your thought processes during that challenging time?
Yeah. So what it really, comes down to in the simplest way is that, there were people who had been through it before me who, spoke to me and they said, look, I understand this. I've been through this and literally told me exactly what I had to do in a very simple way. And the most important of that was that a guy named Johnny told me that I needed to find a group of men who also were in recovery, find a sponsor, and really take on the 12 steps of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, and that's what I did.
Hmm.
So I found a group of men who I went to one of their meetings, and I saw that they were not only were they sober, but they were happy and having a great time and enjoying life. And from there, I found a sponsor, and I got into the AA Big Book, with what we call it. It's a book. Literally, it's a book. It's not that big. It's only a couple hundred pages, and it tells you exactly in that book exactly what you have to do. And one of the things it says right up front is that nobody can understand and talk to one of us like one of us. So
Mhm.
those of us who have been through it, we have a special connection, right?
Yeah,
It's very similar to people who maybe have been in the military and
yeah,
can relate to other people
sure.
um, that have had this shared experience. So simply it was a matter of doing that. I met a gentleman who offered to be my sponsor under three conditions. The first two had to do with keeping in contact with him and reading that book, and the third one was that as soon as I understood it to a reasonable extent, I had to be willing to do the same thing with another man,
Mm.
and that's exactly what I did.
And
And that's
so,
exactly how I approach new people today. The exact same three conditions, and through that, I have sponsored dozens of people, and they have sponsored dozens of people each. So ultimately over 4 years, we're talking about several hundred people.
and it must have been an amazing feeling when you became sober. I mean, for your life to turn around like that, that had to be extremely motivating.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it went from a state of ending up in Florida at a treatment center, unemployed, unemployable. Um, facing possible jail time, facing I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't. I mean, you name it, it was a problem. To the point of going through that, kind of doing a reset on life and coming out of it, and starting anew. And one of the things that I decided to do um, was to stay here. I'm from New York City, and I had been living and working there. I spent some time in London and in Dubai and in Shanghai, and just something about being here in South Florida in the sunshine around a lot of people who had a
Yeah.
shared experience. It seemed to make sense to me, so I stayed here, and I found a way to to create a new life for myself. Um, first and foremost thing being that life did not involve any alcohol or drugs whatsoever.
Right.
And in terms of, work and business, found my way into the mortgage business and found success in that business, probably partly because of having the experience of being in the real estate side for
Yeah.
so many years. Understanding the process, understanding, the concerns and the needs of somebody in the process of buying their first house or buying a second house or retirement, whatever it is. And things just kind of grew from there.
What was it like when you helped? I know for me as a coach or a speaker, when you can help somebody and they share that with you, this made an impact in my life. There's almost no greater reward than that. But when you help somebody turn their life completely around, like when you helped sponsor somebody or help that first man to become sober, what was that like for you? That experience of helping another human being out?
Yeah, so that, I mean, you just nailed it. That the first time that I sponsored somebody, he was a young guy. He had been in and out of bad situations for most of his life. When I first met him, he had long hair. He was kind of overweight. He smoked quite a lot, and I worked with him, and we went through the book, and we went through what I had done, and he he did it, and COVID hit. While that was going on, the COVID thing hit, and it made it very difficult for us to meet up in person. So we found ways to do it. We did it on Zoom. We did it on FaceTime. Whatever we could do, because we couldn't physically get together because of whatever. And finally, he got through what he needed to do, and we were going to meet up in person for the first time in a few months. And I went and met with him, and he showed up driving a car, which he had not been able to do for a long time. And he had cut his hair short, and he'd lost about 40 pounds, and he quit smoking. And I said, wow, this is an incredible transformation. What happened? And he told me, he said, I want to be like you.
Wow.
And that's the most powerful thing that anyone's ever said to me in my life. So
that is so incredible. What a great feeling that is. I mean, let me ask you, before you went into the program, so if you go back to 2019, where you felt like you're at one of those lowest points, could you ever imagine having accomplished what you've accomplished in those short 4 years?
I could imagine it, but I could never figure out how to get there. I could imagine anything, right? That part of the disease of addiction, right, is fantasy, right? We get into this, our thoughts run a million miles an hour, right? And that still is going to happen. The problem is that the addiction gets in the way of you actually achieving anything meaningful, right? So you can make a lot of money, but you're going to spend it all in 10 minutes, so it doesn't matter. You can get a great job, but you're not going to keep it. That is the condition. So yeah, I mean, I could have imagined all kinds of things,
so that's an interesting
absolutely
point.
None of them.
Well, that's interesting because I feel like whether it's addiction or just challenges people face in their life, I love what you said, that you can imagine anything. So most people are probably imagining a better life. I think we all need help getting there.
Exactly.
We're not on a journey by ourselves, or we shouldn't be. There's so many people that will reach out and help and go above and beyond the call of duty for people.
Totally.
So, that kind of brings me up to something that really fascinated me about you. You've got this passion for helping people. And one of the communities that we believe in helping is the military or the veteran community. And you're involved with an amazing organization called the Veterans Branch. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with them and what they focus on?
Sure. I kind of got involved with them just by putting myself out there. I met the founder through an online networking group, and I heard what he was doing, and I asked him if he would have what we call a virtual coffee with me. And we got on the phone, and I thought we were going to talk for 10 minutes, and we talked for 2.5 hours. Wow. And he told me all about the ranch, the Veterans Ranch, and what the mission is and what they aim to do. And I was just floored by it. And I asked him, I said, listen, what can I do to help you? And he named a number of things, and I, one of them was, would you be on our board? And I said, absolutely. So the board, met and voted me on, and I've had the privilege to be on it for about 6 months now. and just continue to do more and more and more to improve what we're aiming to do. Can I talk a little bit about what the Veterans Ranch is?
Yeah, please, because this is a phenomenal organization, a phenomenal story.
So what the Veterans Ranch aims to do is to serve veterans to combat PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and veteran suicide, which is unfortunately still a huge problem. And the way that they do it is by doing equine therapy. So we actually have veterans work with horses. Part of the belief is that horses are one of God's healing animals. And horses just provide you with such a great opportunity to interact with these huge things, right? I mean, anyone who's, I'm a kid from the city, right? So to me, you say a horse, it's just, oh yeah, I think of it
a little
yeah,
overwhelming.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen a police officer in Times Square on one or something like that, or out, whatever. But they're these these beautiful, calm, sentient animals, right? And they have so much to offer us, right? They are an amazing companion. They're very thoughtful. They have a lot of personality, and they're not necessarily. It's not like a dog where you can go up to most dogs and just pet a dog. Horses don't. It doesn't work that way. I mean, one, they're not as common, and two, they're a lot more sensitive, right? They can read you, they can feel your energy, they can take in your vibe, and interacting with the horse and learning to interact with the horse really requires a lot of thought and can actually change you. So what we do with the Veterans Ranch, in short, is that we provide experiences where veterans who are in need get to have experiences with the animals, and it begins with basic how to approach the animal, how to pet their muzzle, things like that, to learning some basics of grooming the horse, and then to begin to learn how to ride, which again, that's one of those things that you don't just get on a horse and go. It doesn't work that way. It's a lot. There's a lot more steps to it.
Yeah. Now, have you actually been to the ranch when some veterans have been there working with the horses?
So one of the things that we're working on is we don't actually have a permanent ranch as of yet. We're working on developing properties that we can use full time. So far we've only been using borrowed or donated ranches. My sister and her husband. My sister is a veteran. Her husband is active duty military, and they actually live on a horse farm. So I have had experiences there on their farm, and I've seen this, in action. Yeah, it's really impressive.
We need to get the word out there to help. I mean, the Veterans Ranch can use some help, use some support to
yes,
get
we
some
can.
permanent locations.
Yes, we can. So we actually have been working on a model where we're going to be acquiring some property. Most likely, we're going to acquire a property in Texas, and what we'll do is we're going to have a mix of our charitable operation as well as commercial boarding. Probably the commercial boarding will provide enough revenue to cover all of the activities of the charity.
I mean, the impact, you've got to be hearing stories about the impact it's making on these service members.
Yes.
I have a friend that a Marine Corps vet who is also a firefighter, and in Minnesota they have in this one area they have some horse therapy set up, and he went out to check it out, and he didn't really, he was skeptical. He didn't think that it was going to do what they said it was going to do, and he said that he felt like the horse connected with him emotionally, and
Exactly.
almost like it was trying to take away that negative energy that he had. He said it was really bizarre, and he's a straight shooting guy. He just didn't fully believe what he was hearing, and then he went there and credited him with helping him through some of these times. Just that time he had with the horse, he said, was very impactful.
Yeah, that's what we hear over and over and over again, and there's plenty of clinical research to back it up as well. That equine therapy is really is unique and effective, and it's for multiple things. They're actually in the drug and alcohol treatment world. There are several commercial operators who are running equine therapy programs for people. Obviously, veterans being a huge segment of the population of people who suffer with alcohol and drug addiction. Yeah, it's a new thing it's a new thing in terms of being applied to treatment. People who have known horses and have been involved with them for a long time have always known that there's something healing about it. It's something that, in terms of applying it as a method of treatment, this is fairly new.
So can veterans apply from anywhere? Or do they have to be in one state or?
Yeah, anywhere. Yeah, anywhere, and we'll get them to a program.
That's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And crazy that you've only been with them 6 months, and here's all these stories you're hearing about the impact that it's making.
Yeah, it's really just a remarkable. It's just a remarkable program, and we're not the only ones doing it. We aim to be, though. What we want to do is develop a model that we can replicate easily, so that we can have permanent ranches throughout the United States, at least throughout the southern portion where the weather is permissible to do it all year round.
Yeah, I think here in Minnesota you'd be limited to maybe 6 months out of the year.
Yeah, that is a challenge. But because of that, we are looking at placing our locations again in the southern portion of the United States, and near to hub airports where it's easy to get people in and out. So we're looking in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're looking in the Orlando, Ocala area in Florida, which is again major horse country. And that again, Charlotte, North Carolina, again another hub airport city, very close to really great equestrian areas where we have the opportunity to do this, and also not the extreme high costs of the Northeast.
Sure. Is there a specific cost to send somebody through this program right now currently? Like and a backup question to that is, can somebody sponsor a veteran to go through the program?
There certainly is a cost. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but we could figure that out. And in terms of can somebody sponsor it, yeah, we'll take that, or we'll take direct donations right to the charity, either for a specific purpose or just for general funds for operations. We'll take whatever you need. The catch to doing anything with horses is that it's not cheap, right? The horses alone are very expensive. The cost for hay alone, it's for the program could exceed $200,000 a year. Wow. For hay. It is not by any means an inexpensive undertaking.
Right.
Though we feel that it's worth it.
Yeah, the impact is so huge.
Exactly. Speaking of impact, I'm also involved with another charity locally here in Palm Beach County called the Impact 100, where we actually pool together to raise money and donate it to charities for children.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So we have an event.
Impact 100.
Yeah.
How long have you been involved with them?
I just got involved recently. They just asked me on last month. So
I don't know how you find all the time and the energy, but
it's a good question.
Again, what's that?
It's a good question.
Somehow we do it when we're passionate.
Yeah.
What attracted you to that organization? How did you come to help out the Impact 100?
So, again, this is an organization where it's the collective benefit is so much better than what one person can do on their own, right? I mean, obviously, sure, if there's a billionaire who wants to write a 7 or 8 figure check, that we'll take it, of course. However, though, if you get 100 people together donating a good amount of money and then putting that effort into sponsoring a charitable organization with a specific cause or a specific initiative, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So we're actually looking at three local charities that are all finalists for the prize money this year, and each one of them is just absolutely amazing. So we're looking at stuff from helping homeless children with their needs for clothing. There's one that involves children learning about aquaculture, which is something that is going to help us in the future with food insecurity.
Yeah.
And then another one about telling your story, learning about heritage, and why that's so important.
That's hugely important. I mean, I remember when I went in the Marine Corps, within the beginning parts of boot camp, they're teaching you Marine Corps heritage because it creates a sense of pride and enthusiasm for what you're doing. So, I mean, you're working on so many great things to help people, whether it's children, the military community, or people with addiction. But you yourself, you have some pretty lofty goals that may involve the political arena. And you've done some work in there before. Can you share a little bit about some of those great goals you have for yourself in the political arena and why that is becoming a calling for you?
Sure. So I am currently running for Florida State Representative in District 93, which is in the western portion of Palm Beach County. What got me involved with that is I've always been interested in politics and particularly at the local and state level, because those are roles where what you do can really have a great impact on a large number of
Sure.
people and do things that again benefit the greater good. I mentioned that Florida is seeing a huge influx in population. I was one of those people a few years ago, and the trend just continues where we're
Yeah.
seeing a huge influx of people. That has goods and bads to it, right?
Yeah.
The good, we've got lots more people, we've got lots more stuff, we have a very active economy. The bads, real estate prices are increasing dramatically. And what that particularly hurts is our workforce, our teachers, our firefighters, our first responders, all the way down to the folks who work in food service and hospitality, where it is becoming unaffordable for them to live where they need to in order to work. And some of the things we can do to address that is from the state level, from the county level, is to invest in workforce housing development, is to invest in preservation of our housing, to keep people where they are. And that's something that I see in my business that I think there is a major opportunity again to do more for people.
Well, they're probably just as the mortgage, the real estate industry is in a volatile state in some capacities. The political arena is too. This is an interesting time to be getting into the political arena, tossing your hat in there. When you look at things across the country, it's very divided. So this is an opportunity, I feel, for politicians to unify people as well. And I think that unification side is so critical right now.
Absolutely. And my intro into politics is that a few years ago, I had the opportunity to work on a campaign locally for a friend of mine who's a state representative, and help him get reelected. I've now helped him twice on that, and I also helped a couple other candidates. And the folks that I choose to spend my time with, who share my beliefs, are what we're all about is common sense, right?
Yeah.
We're not into any lofty ideas. We're not into doing anything radical either on the left or the right side. We're very much about common sense governments, things that make sense for all of us, right? We care about law and order and safety. Like, that's a big deal for us. We care about that in the schools that we're teaching reading, writing, arithmetic. That is what we need to do in our schools, and not get caught up in this quagmire of other nonsense that goes on. So without getting into I believe in this or that, it's simply basic stuff, right?
Sometimes it's getting back to the basics.
Back to the basics, right?
Yeah.
That's what we need. Some of the things that we've done over the past few years, in my lifetime, that I've seen that we thought were a great idea, that now we're finding wasn't such a great idea, is we made a big deal about the STEM education push quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that's, so now we created a generation of kids who know how to use Microsoft Excel, but they can't write a sentence. That's a problem.
That's right. It is absolutely.
Yeah. So, we need to get back into a balanced focus on what we're doing. One of my, passions outside of all that is I love acting. I can't sing to save my soul, but I love to act. And I love to go to plays and stuff like that. And that's something that, again, There's a reason why we, when I had the benefit of having all of that as a kid in school, and learning all that and seeing all that, and that makes you a more balanced person,
Yeah,
right? So
that's right.
going up on the stage in third and fourth grade is probably why I have no qualms about coming on a podcast and talking to you, or getting in front of a group full of people at a town hall meeting and talking about an issue about the water supply, which is a thing we talk about here in Florida.
Yeah.
Um, no worries about that.
It's
Had I
interesting.
not
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
had I not had that experience as a child, I don't necessarily know that I would be able to do that right now.
I did not have that opportunity as a child, or at least I steered away from it. I was just too afraid to get on the stage, and now I take the stage every day as a speaker and a coach and an author and all those things. And what gets me up there is it's interesting, because my natural tendency is to not be on stage as a more introverted person. However, when I'm passionate about something, I want to share it. I want to talk to people about becoming greater. I want to talk to people about making an impact, helping out other people. And so then the stage becomes that platform for that. But if I didn't have something I was sharing passionately, I couldn't share it at all. I think I'd be too scared, But getting up there and knowing you can impact somebody, there's nothing greater than that.
Yeah, from something that my mother used to say to me as a kid, was from those to whom much is given, much is expected. And that's something that I keep in mind all the time, right? So I had the privilege of going to good schools. I had the privilege of going to an Ivy League university. I had the privilege of going and getting an MBA abroad. Therefore, much is expected for me to give back to society, and
Yeah.
that's what draws me to politics, because there's no clearer way to have an impact on a wide group of people than from government.
Well, and it's needed now probably more than ever for us to have people in office that go back to the people side of things. No
Right.
different than in a business. If a business loses track of, we're in the people business, if they lose that focus, they'll lose their people. And
Yeah.
I think that's a large part of what's happened in the political realm over the last 10 to 12 years is we're not feeling that the people are the priority as much as the politicians are the priority. So I'm excited for you to run. I'm excited for your victory. I can already feel you're going to get it, because we need more people in there that put people as the priority again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, politics it doesn't make sense from a business point of view, right? For me to do this, to run for a state representative seat, that seat pays $29,000 a year. It's going to cost 800,000 plus to win that seat, right? So it's not a business proposition whatsoever. And I think a lot of people look at politics as this way to enrich themselves, and that's just not right. One, you're not going to, right, unless you're doing something completely untoward. It's just simply not going to happen. And two, that's not the point of service, right? You do service for other people because it's the right thing to do, because that is going to advance society. And I believe in doing what I can to advance society. I believe that there is an ideal world that we can create it. We will create it.
Yeah, we're not there yet. And it's going to take work, and it's going to take people like you, like me, like some of our listeners, to make an impact, to go out
Sure.
and put other people first. I've been asked to run for Congress. I've been asked by people. They say you should run. I said, well, I really like what I'm doing right now. So maybe at some point. But I got bit by the bug. I helped a friend with his campaign out here in Minnesota. And it was interesting. I mean, it's a completely different world. And yet the opportunity to make an impact is so huge.
Totally. And look, it doesn't have to be for Congress. It doesn't have to be for state. It makes a difference, even a local thing, your town, your village, your small city. Everything that you do impacts a large group of people, right? Even if it is a small group, even if it's a couple hundred people, you're doing something in service to other people other than for yourself. It feels good. And it's hard to explain that one. It just does.
Yeah.
But two, you're doing something that is improving society. And there is a way to create an ideal society, right? And the way we do it is we actually do it, right? Somebody once said to me that the world needs more doers. Well, that's a great thing to say, but why don't you just go do something as opposed to saying it? Do something.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that get a lot of lip service out there. and helping others is one. I mean, I've moved to do something in the inner cities. I feel that for many years I've heard that the inner city's this, the inner city's this, they need help, they need help, they need help. And I hear a lot about it, but I don't see a lot of people doing it. And so that's an area that's very important to me. I feel like there's an opportunity for inner greatness out there. And again, it's giving back to the communities. That it's giving back to the military community through the Veterans Ranch, or our foundation. We award scholarships to military spouses. At the end of the day, when you have somebody say that this made an impact, it's the greatest reward. And I think that when people stop just focusing on their day-to-day job and the work they do, and they help other people to win, there's just no greater feeling than that. Helping somebody else get the victory is absolutely phenomenal.
Totally. And it's interesting you mentioned veterans again. There are so many things that are available for veterans and their families out there already, and the utilization is low. It's
Even
very
just
low.
starting with the VA loan.
Totally. What percent of veterans who are eligible for a loan actually take advantage of it? I don't know what the current numbers are, but it's low.
I heard one. Yeah, I heard it was. Oh, I can't remember. It was either 20% or 2%. It was so bad that here's all these people that have access to this loan, and in some regards might be talked out of it, maybe by somebody that didn't understand it, or doesn't know how to do it, or thinks it's harder than it is. But you are absolutely right. There are so many veteran benefits out there that are left untapped. Just these resources.
So I'm seeing that I'm seeing different numbers here. It's anywhere between 6% and 12% of eligible veterans are using a VA loan to own a home. 6 to 12%. A lot of work to be done. Yeah.
Well, and that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think when you do work through the Veterans Ranch, or we do it through the Think Great Foundation, we're encountering these veteran families that they need to know they have access to other things too. So yes, we do scholarships, and yes, you help with so many great things through PTSD, minimizing the survival or the suicide rate that's out there. But yeah, they do need to have people explain to them some of these benefits and how simple it is to get. I mean, I have a VA loan on my house, but I was fortunate to have a sister-in-law who was an underwriter and said, all right, here's what you need to do. I mean, that was phenomenal. Otherwise, if I was speaking to a realtor, a loan officer, whatever pathway they guided me, I would have went, because I didn't know. So
yeah.
So I have a question for you. You are the self-proclaimed. You're a self-proclaimed Renaissance man. All right. Can you, as far as the acting goes, can you shed some light on that? I love that name, by the way.
Self-proclaimed Renaissance man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It's something that I was passionate about as a child. I was involved with a group called Odyssey of the Mind, which I believe is still in existence. That does, you create a team and you do a competition around a theme, and involves writing a skit and doing like a 6-minute play. Did that. I did drama things as a kid in school.
Yeah.
and kind of lost my way about that as I went about life. And I don't know, it was something that when I made the decision to become sober, and I literally had a therapist who I worked with, and she asked me to name some things that I used to like to do that I stopped doing, and acting was one of those things. So she challenged me to find a way to do it. And I went online, and I found that there was a local community theater here in Delray Beach that was holding auditions that coming weekend. So I walked in out of the blue and auditioned for a play that I'd never heard of, and ended up getting cast in that play. And
awesome.
Later I found out that they hadn't cast any new male lead roles in that theater for like 5-6 years, something like that. So I was the first new blood in the theater for a number of years. That's and great. I was thrown into it, and was put in did a play called See How They Run, which is a British farce, and I had a blast, and I was terrible. when I started. I was absolutely terrible. I knew nothing. I was difficult to work with, and I had a director, Randy, who was 40 plus years of doing it, and he yelled at me every day. And by the time we opened the play, I think I was pretty good. And we did
So
15
he was like your
sold-outs.
drill instructor.
He was, yeah, he was like an old scary drill instructor screaming at me from the back of the theater.
And
And
it worked.
and it worked. The funny thing is he. So this was prior to COVID hitting. And the theater is an old 1930s, I believe 1930s building, and it's concrete. And our director did not believe in using microphones. He felt that sounded like listening to a radio program. So he wanted us to project our voices.
Yeah.
And pretty common sense that the audience in a South Florida community theater is largely senior citizens, right? So
Sure.
hearing ability is not strong, right?
Yeah.
So his joke was, he's never had a patron come up to him afterwards to say, "Oh, that was awful. I heard every word." So to learn to project your voice, and I'm from New York, so I'm naturally loud.
Yeah.
But I'm now louder, and I have no issue whatsoever. No one can ever not hear me when I'm in a public setting. So again, being in politics and going to lots of town hall meetings and events like that, nobody ever has to tell me to speak up.
You have to learn how to project. I've done plenty of events where you get there and they run into an issue with the microphone. So they don't have them. And
more
I said,
often than not, more often than not, the microphone, whatever the system is, doesn't work correctly.
Yeah,
so,
it'd be one of those things you think they would test out more in advance, but you get there and I'm like, all right, that's right. I'm just being tested on my projection skills right now.
Yeah, that's what it is. You learn how to speak loudly and clearly. And in my case, I was doing it in a British accent as well, so really an extra challenge. But it was fun. It was really.
So how would you rank your British accent on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm a solid 7, I would say. One of the other actors I worked with in that play actually is British, and somebody came up to me afterwards and said, "Boy, you were great. Your accent is so much more believable than that other guy." And I was like,
all right. I mean, people are going to want to hear it. Can you give us a sample? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm trying to think of some lines from the play. Yeah, can we come back to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
right.
well, okay. So let me ask you this: as you're thinking of some lines from the play, let's just say somebody's listening today that is facing a challenge. They can imagine, like we talked about, they can imagine a greater life for them. What are some tips you have for somebody that just wants to get their life back on track? And it doesn't have to be with addiction. Maybe they just have financial challenges or depression or just anything that they're facing, family struggles. For somebody that's just saying, "Hey, Chris motivated me today. I'd like to take some steps in the right direction." Do you have any thoughts on that?
The first thing that comes to mind is to ask for help. If you ask for help, you're going to get it, right? And that could be asking for help from somebody else. Could be praying to God for help. Just asking for help. Probably the number one thing that I had to learn was to ask for help. Probably the number one thing that I was told prior to all of this, in various different jobs and in whatever settings, was that you need to ask for help, and I was always too proud to do it. But ask for help, and you're going to get it. That's the number one thing. The second thing would be that another thing that I've had the privilege to experience in the last few years is I've become involved with a program called the Self-Discovery Life Mastery Program. And one of the things that we work on is to get over the addiction to thinking. Thinking is not good. When we act out of thought, we're overdoing it, and we get confused. Act out of heart, out of feeling, out of belief, and that is how you drive success and results.
Yeah, just that overthinking it. I think that consumes a lot of people day to day.
Yeah, I worked with a coach many years ago who told me something along the lines of, in English we speak at like 150 to 200 words a minute, something like that, and so we hear about that speed, but we think at like 3,000 plus words a minute. So we're thinking, what, 15, 20 times as much as we're actually communicating. So one, we're having these fantasy conversations in our head that don't exist, and two, we're just overcomplicating everything, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just simply, it's too much. Um, so working out of belief rather than thought. There's another one of those cliches, analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah.
How often does that happen, especially in the business world? We see that
That's
all the
right.
time,
All the
right?
time.
All the time.
Absolutely.
And that's something that, I know a lot of people who've been in the military, and that's one of the things that successful people in the military often speak about. They overcome the analysis paralysis because you can't, it's simply not, it's not an option on the battlefield. It's just not.
And I think, for somebody that wants to start heading in the right direction, I think personally as a coach, we're gonna find more and more people like that now that the full effects of the pandemic phase are over and we're heading into a new era. I am seeing so many people that are breaking free of complacency, that are replacing status quo with status grow, that they're starting to focus on their goals again, because that 2 weeks to flatten the curve that turned into 2 years, I think it had just such a major impact on people, on their mindset, on their own abilities to go get after things again. So I think exactly like you're saying that almost we have to get out of our own way, and take those steps forward. Don't overthink them. Start stepping forward and step into this new era because there's so much opportunity out there right now.
Definitely. Definitely.
All right. So before I ask you the last question, did you think of any lines that we could test out your British accent?
I'm looking for some that might be. So the thing is, I played a character who was a vicar, a visiting vicar, Mr. Humphreys, and the play is all about confusion because everyone in the play is also pretending to be Mr. Humphreys, but I actually was the real one.
Gotcha.
Um, and he didn't have he was more of a physically funny character than a speaking funny character. He had a
Yeah.
couple of lines. It's a farce, so most of the jokes have to do with slamming doors and falling down.
Gotcha. And you're still acting. Are you still doing it now?
I haven't been in a play for a while. I'm definitely still interested in it. I just don't have the time. It's that's one of the things that you kind of have to realize is that in order to stage a play, quasi professionally, that's a commitment of about 20 hours a week for at least a quarter prior to the play. So if you think about it, if you're going to do 15 shows in, say, the month of December, you're going to start rehearsing in October
It's a
every
huge
day.
commitment.
It's a huge commitment.
And we already heard earlier in the show how many hours a week are taken up with all the activities you have going on. Well, we
Yeah.
may have to have you back on just so we could do some British dialogue and hear how good you
Well,
are.
they stayed in the shadows, but shadows are the perfect place from which to watch, to see.
There you go. That's far better than a 7.
Maybe.
I think you're up
So,
there.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's definitely a passion of mine, something that maybe at some point I'll have more time to devote to that. For right now, it's I'm purely a patron of the arts rather than a participant.
But you know what, Chris, you're doing so many great things out there with veterans, with kids, with first responders. I mean, you exemplify unselfishness. And it's so great to be around you, to hear this energy coming off you for helping other people that I think you've inspired people. I think people listening to this are going to get out of their own way, maybe stop overthinking some things, and go out there and make an impact in their life and the lives of others. And so on that, I just want to say thanks for being on the show, for starters. You're truly remarkable. Everything you've overcome and everything that you're going after right now, the level of impact you're going to make in other people's lives. I mean, you've only scratched the surface on it. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they find you or connect with you or even find out some of the resources like the Veterans Ranch if you have their website? What are some places people can go to if they want to kind of follow in your footsteps or reach out to you?
Sure. So, the first thing I'd say is you call or text me. My number is 561-774-5096. I put that number on every single piece of my campaign material. That's something that I strongly believe in. The people that have taught me how to get into politics, they do the same thing. We are always 100% accessible to everybody, and it doesn't matter what party you're in. It doesn't matter if you're not going to vote for me. It doesn't matter if you're a liberal Democrat. I still want to talk to you. Call me 561-774-5096. The Veterans Ranch is the veteransranch.org. Again, you can call me at that number, 561-774-5096. I'll happily talk your ear off all about it. And as well as put you in touch with several of the other volunteers who work on it, who are all equally excited about it and willing to tell you all about it. And, we'd love to share the story. That's the way that we get the word out is we share the story. We are doing some interesting stuff. We're going to be on RFD TV. We are involved with I can't think of the name of it, but there's a resort group that's going to be airing stuff on their internal channels throughout their hotel rooms about it. But we mainly share the story one-on-one. We have some magazine articles coming out as well. I think one of them is called "In the Saddle." It's just talks about the equestrian lifestyle and what benefit that has to veterans.
Well, that's awesome. And Chris, you're working on so many amazing things. I know we're going to have you back on the show just so we could do a follow-up and talk about all the successes. So on behalf of all of our listeners, I just want to say thanks for bringing the energy. Thanks for bringing the optimism, the positivity, just for bringing that right mindset. I think so many people needed to hear that right now as we go into this new era and we're all looking to have our own moments of greatness. So thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.